There's a moment in every story, in every relationship, in every life, where you realize that time isn't waiting for anyone. And right now, I feel that moment pressing in, like the quiet weight of something you can't ignore. It's easy to get caught up in routines, to let days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and to assume that the people and things that matter will always be there. But that's not reality. The truth is, we have today, right here, right now. And if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't face it with full clarity, it may slip through our fingers before we even realize it. That's why I need to speak, and I need to speak honestly, because silence at this stage would not be fair to either of us. I want you to take a moment and think about the power of presence. Not just being physically present, but truly, fully aware, seeing, listening, understanding, and feeling the depth of what exists between us. So often, we live distracted by the noise of the world, by obligations, by what's next on the list. And in the process, we overlook the very things that define our lives, the relationships, the connections, the shared experiences that shape who we are. There's a beauty in acknowledging the present, in understanding that this moment is not just another tick on the clock, but a rare and fleeting opportunity to connect, to express, to truly be seen. And that's what I want us to do right now. To step into that space together, without pretense, without hesitation. Because the reality is, if we wait too long, we risk misunderstanding, regret, and the weight of words unsaid. There's an honesty that only exists when you confront the present. And it's uncomfortable, sometimes even frightening, because it strips away the illusions we cling to, the idea that tomorrow will always give us another chance, that there will always be time to explain, to apologize, to express what truly matters. But time is relentless. It doesn't pause for hesitation or fear. It keeps moving forward. And in that movement, it challenges us to act, to reach, to speak, before the opportunity fades. I've thought a lot about why this moment is important, not just to me, but to us. It's not about blame or regret. It's about clarity, about understanding, about ensuring that the choices we make today are intentional, not accidental. It's about recognizing the value of what we share and refusing to let it be diminished by distraction, avoidance, or fear. Because there's something extraordinary about a connection that is fully acknowledged, fully understood, fully embraced, and that requires courage. It requires looking straight at the present moment and saying, this is real, this is important, and it matters enough for me to speak, for me to act, for me to be fully here. So this is me being fully here, speaking from a place of clarity, from a place of urgency, from a place of respect for what we have and what we could still become. I don't want to wait for a future that may never arrive. I don't want to risk losing what we have to assumption or silence. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that when you recognize the value of a moment, when you honor it fully, it transforms everything. It transforms your understanding, your choices, your relationships, and ultimately, yourself. We have the chance now to see clearly, to connect fully, to step into honesty without hesitation. And if we do that, if we truly acknowledge this present moment together, we create a foundation that can withstand the unknown, the uncertainties, and the challenges yet to come. There's no guarantee in life, no roadmap that ensures we'll get another chance to say the things that matter most. But there is this moment, and it is enough. It is powerful. It is real. So I'm choosing to speak, to share, to lay everything on the table before it's too late. And I hope that, together, we can step into this moment and never underestimate its significance, because sometimes acknowledging the present is the most revolutionary thing we can do, and the time to do it is now. When I think about us, I can't help but trace the path that brought us here, every twist, every turn, every small choice that shaped the story we share. There's something profound about looking back, not to dwell on mistakes or regrets, but to truly see how far we've come, how much we've grown, and how every experience has left its mark. The journey we've taken together isn't just a series of moments. It's a living, breathing testament to resilience, to collaboration, to the quiet strength that comes from facing uncertainty side by side. And it's in that reflection that I find clarity not just about what we are, but about what we can still become. Think about the first steps we took together. Remember how tentative, how fragile they felt. Every new beginning carries that sense of unknown, the subtle fear that maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't work out. And yet, despite the uncertainty, there was a spark, a curiosity, a willingness to see what could happen if we committed, if we tried, if we truly trusted one another. That spark has endured, even when the path became rocky, even when challenges seemed insurmountable. It's easy to forget that the foundation of any meaningful connection is built not just on triumphs, but on persistence, on showing up even when the outcome is unclear. I think about the obstacles we faced. I think about the disagreements, the missteps, the moments where things felt like they might break under the pressure. And yet, we didn't break. We adapted. We learned. We leaned on one another, sometimes in silence, sometimes in words that carried more weight than we could measure at the time. There's a lesson in that, one that I hope we never underestimate, that the true measure of any journey isn't in the absence of struggle, but in the willingness to navigate it together, to hold each other steady when the world shakes beneath our feet. That resilience, that shared determination, is a thread that ties everything together, a thread that reminds us that our story isn't accidental, it's deliberate, crafted by intention, by care, by a willingness to engage fully with life and with each other. And then there are the victories, the moments of pure connection, the times when the world seemed to fall away, leaving only the reality of us. Those are the moments we carry with us, tucked into memory like rare jewels, moments where laughter and trust and understanding converge so perfectly that the rest of life seemed to pause. It's tempting to dismiss them as fleeting, but they are not. They are the proof that what we've built has value, that our connection has depth, that the journey itself is worth every risk, every challenge, every unknown step we've taken. They remind us why we started, why we stayed, and why it matters that we continue. Reflecting on this journey also means acknowledging the parts of ourselves we've revealed along the way, the vulnerability, the courage, the moments of doubt and brilliance alike. We've seen each other in ways that few people ever get to see another human being. And that transparency, that rawness, is a rare gift. It's not just about what we've experienced externally, but what we've allowed each other to witness internally, the growth that comes from being truly known, and in turn, knowing someone else fully. That is the kind of connection that doesn't fade with time. It deepens, it strengthens, it shapes the very way we move through life. So, as I stand here reflecting on this journey, I realize that everything we've shared, the struggles, the victories, the quiet moments of understanding, is a foundation. And on that foundation, we have the power to build what comes next. We've proven again and again that we can endure, that we can create, that we can rise above the chaos and uncertainty that life throws at us. And that is not something to take lightly. That is something to honor, to protect, and to continue to nurture with intention, courage, and care. Because when we truly pause and reflect, we see the magnitude of what we've created together, and it's undeniable. This journey, our journey, is extraordinary. It is rare, and it is not over. Not by a long shot. And as we carry that forward, I want us to remember this. The past is not just a story, it's proof. Proof that together, we are capable of more than we sometimes even allow ourselves to imagine. And that is why the next chapter, the next step, matters more than ever. There are moments in life where words feel heavy and silence feels safer. We carry thoughts and feelings that seem too raw, too fragile, too difficult to share. We convince ourselves that holding them in is protection, that maybe someday the right time will come. But the truth is, there's rarely a perfect moment. The truth is, unspoken feelings don't fade, they accumulate, quietly shaping decisions, influencing interactions, creating invisible walls between what we feel and what we express. And that's why I need to speak now, because if we don't, those unspoken truths risk becoming regrets. They risk becoming the things we wish we had shared before it was too late. I want to be honest about the things I haven't said, about the fears I've felt, the hopes I've carried, the ways I've been both vulnerable and unsure. I want to speak about the admiration I feel, the respect I hold, the gratitude for every small moment that has passed between us that might have seemed ordinary at the time but was anything but. And I want to acknowledge the doubts, the insecurities, the mistakes, and the times I questioned if we were doing enough, if we were fully present, if we were truly understanding each other. All of these feelings, unspoken though they may have been real. They've mattered. And now, they deserve to be shared. It's remarkable, when you stop and think about it, how much energy we expend in silence, how much thought we put into what we don't say, how often we convince ourselves that some truths are too complicated, too difficult, too uncomfortable for the moment. And yet, the reality is that unspoken feelings have a voice of their own. They manifest in tension, in hesitation, in gaps where connection should be strongest. They influence the way we see each other, the way we interact, the way we navigate challenges. And the longer we wait to speak them, the louder they grow in ways we can't control. I've realized that speaking these truths isn't just about clearing the air, it's about connection. It's about breaking down walls and building bridges. It's about trusting that what we share is strong enough to withstand honesty, that our bond is resilient enough to hold the weight of everything we haven't said. Because, in the end, unspoken feelings are not a sign of weakness, they are a call to courage. They are a reminder that the things that matter most often require us to be brave, to step forward even when it's uncomfortable, even when the outcome is uncertain. And there's something beautiful in that courage. There's something transformative in allowing ourselves to be fully known, in revealing the layers we've hidden, the thoughts we've kept to ourselves, the emotions we've tucked away for fear of judgment or misunderstanding. There's freedom in expression, clarity in communication, and a depth of understanding that can only be reached when words are finally spoken, when silence is replaced with honesty, when hearts and minds are laid bare without apology. I need you to hear that my silence has never been indifference. It has been reflection, hesitation, contemplation, but it has also been a recognition that the things most important often need the right words, the right intention, and the courage to say them clearly. And here, now, I want to do just that. I want to share the entirety of what I feel, what I think, what I hope, and what I fear, not to overwhelm, not to demand, but to ensure that nothing essential remains unexpressed between us. Because the reality is, unspoken feelings have power. They can linger as doubts, erode trust quietly, or create distance without anyone intending it. But spoken feelings have power too. They create clarity, deepen understanding, and allow us to navigate the future with intention. They transform relationships from fragile assumptions into living, breathing connections that can endure and flourish. So this is me choosing to speak, choosing to share, choosing to bring everything into the open. I don't want our story to be defined by the things we were afraid to say. I want it to be defined by the courage to speak, to acknowledge, and to embrace the complexity of what we truly feel. Because when we do that, when we allow ourselves to communicate fully, we create a space where trust, understanding, and connection can thrive. And so, here it is. Everything I've held inside, laid bare, ready for us to face together. Because sometimes the greatest act of love, of respect, of belief in one another, is simply to speak the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and trust that it will bring us closer rather than drive us apart. And that, ultimately, is the choice I make right here, right now. One of the hardest things to do is look at ourselves honestly, to see where we've fallen short, where our decisions may have caused pain, where our intentions didn't match the outcomes. It's uncomfortable because it strips away excuses and forces us to confront the raw truth of our actions. And yet, I've come to realize that this kind of reflection is not weakness, it's strength. It's an acknowledgement that growth isn't linear, that every step we take, even the missteps, has value if we are willing to learn from it. And that willingness, that openness to see ourselves clearly, is what allows us to move forward with integrity, with purpose, and with a deeper connection to those we care about most. I want to speak openly about the mistakes I've made, the moments where I didn't communicate clearly, where I acted impulsively, where I let pride, fear, or distraction guide my choices instead of clarity and intention. I've realized that in those moments, I may have hurt you, disappointed you, or created distance where there should have been trust. And I need to acknowledge that, not to dwell on it, not to apologize endlessly, but to ensure that the reality is seen, understood, and owned. Mistakes are not just moments of failure. They are opportunities for insight, for recalibration, for transformation. And if we ignore them, if we refuse to acknowledge them, we risk repeating patterns that could undermine everything we value. I also want to acknowledge that learning doesn't come from external perfection, it comes from experience, from reflection, and from the courage to confront discomfort. Every challenge we've faced, every misunderstanding, every friction point has been a lesson in disguise. It's shown me where patience is needed, where empathy is essential, and where intention must always guide action. It's taught me that humility isn't a concession, it's a strength, and that accountability is not a burden, it's the foundation for trust. By facing our mistakes head-on, we give ourselves the chance to grow not just as individuals, but as a unit, as partners, as people committed to something larger than themselves. I've come to understand that acknowledging mistakes isn't just about the past, it's about shaping the future. It's about creating a space where learning from errors becomes part of our DNA, part of the culture of how we approach each other, how we interact, how we make decisions together. Every misstep is an invitation to improve, to refine, to act with more clarity, more courage, and more consideration. And when we embrace that process, when we allow ourselves to be honest without judgment, the connection we share deepens in ways that are impossible to achieve through perfection alone. The lessons we've learned together are equally powerful. They are reminders that life doesn't come with guarantees, that intentions must be paired with action, that communication must be intentional, and that the bonds we share require care, attention, and constant nurturing. These lessons have not always been comfortable, they rarely are, but they are invaluable. They've taught me patience when impatience could have ruled, empathy when judgment could have prevailed, and resilience when surrender could have been easier. And they have taught me something else, that our shared journey is not defined by flawless execution, but by the courage to face reality, embrace imperfection, and continue moving forward with awareness and commitment. There is a liberating power in owning mistakes, in taking full responsibility for our part in the story we share. It clears the path for honesty, for trust, for deeper connection. It ensures that the future is not haunted by unresolved regrets, but informed by the insights we've gained. And it reminds us that accountability, humility, and reflection are not just words, they are the forces that allow us to transform challenges into opportunities, doubts into clarity, and friction into strength. So, as I reflect on what has happened, what I have learned, and what I still hope to achieve, I realize this. Mistakes are inevitable, but regret is optional. We can choose to let our missteps define us, or we can choose to let them teach us, shape us, and guide us toward a better, stronger, more intentional connection. The choice is ours, and the power lies not in perfection, but in the courage to see ourselves clearly, to learn relentlessly, and to commit fully to the journey ahead. Because when we embrace our mistakes and absorb the lessons they bring, we do more than just move forward. We transform everything we touch with awareness, intention, and the relentless drive to be better together. And that transformation, above all, is worth everything. When I think about the future of us, I don't see a fixed path. I don't see a script written in stone. What I see is possibility, infinite possibility. And that possibility isn't abstract, it's rooted in everything we've built, everything we've learned, and everything we are willing to become together. The future is not a guarantee, but it is an invitation. It's an opportunity to take everything we've experienced, the triumphs, the struggles, the lessons, the love, the challenges, and use it as fuel to create something extraordinary. And that, to me, is the responsibility and the privilege we hold. The truth is, vision requires courage. It requires looking at what is and imagining what could be, even when the gap between the two feels wide, uncertain, or impossible to bridge. It's about daring to dream together, about defining shared goals, about asking questions that push us beyond comfort and routine. Where do we want to go? What kind of connection do we want to nurture? How do we take the bond we have and transform it into something resilient, inspiring, and enduring? These are not small questions. They demand honesty, reflection, and intention. And yet, they are questions that can redefine everything if we are willing to face them together. I envision a future where we operate not from assumption, but from understanding, where every decision, every action, every conversation is informed by the awareness of what we share and the respect we hold for one another. I see a future where transparency is not a challenge but a habit, where honesty is not a burden but a foundation, and where trust is not something we hope to maintain but something we actively cultivate every single day. That kind of future is not accidental, it is deliberate. It requires commitment, creativity, and the willingness to engage with both the highs and the lows with the same level of dedication. I also envision growth not just as individuals, but as a collective. A future where we push each other to be better, not out of criticism, but out of belief. Belief in potential, belief in possibility, belief in the power of shared ambition. Growth means learning to adapt together, to navigate uncertainty with grace, to confront fear with courage, and to celebrate progress, no matter how incremental, as evidence that we are moving forward intentionally. It means recognizing that our journey is ongoing, that perfection is impossible, and that what matters most is our willingness to persist, to innovate, to invest in each other relentlessly. And in that vision, there is also space for boldness. Space for dreaming bigger than we ever have before. Space for taking risks, for embracing challenges, for stepping into the unknown together. Because the future of us is not meant to be cautious. It is meant to be daring. It is meant to test our limits, expand our understanding, and show us just how much we can achieve when we move in unison toward a common purpose. Every challenge we embrace together becomes a proof point, every risk a testament to our resilience, and every success a celebration of the trust and collaboration we have cultivated over time. But perhaps most importantly, the future I see is rooted in connection. A deep, unshakable connection that survives uncertainty, withstands pressure, and thrives on shared vision. A connection where we are not just companions in passing moments, but partners in building something enduring, something that matters, something that leaves a mark not just on our lives, but on the world around us. That connection is a responsibility as much as it is a gift. It asks that we listen, that we speak, that we act with intention, that we hold ourselves accountable not just to ourselves, but to each other. The future of us is not a distant point on a timeline. It is created by every choice we make today, by every conversation we have, by every step we take toward clarity, understanding, and shared purpose. And that realization is empowering, because it reminds us that we are not victims of circumstance. We are architects of possibility. We have the tools, the insight, and the courage to shape the story that lies ahead. So, when I look forward, I don't see limitations, I see opportunity. I don't see obstacles, I see challenges that are meant to be conquered together. I don't see uncertainty, I see the thrill of creation, of exploration, of building something that has never existed before, and that carries the imprint of both of us in every detail. The future is ours to define. The future is ours to seize. And the question isn't whether it will be extraordinary, it's whether we will step into it with clarity, courage, and a relentless commitment to each other. Because if we do, there is no limit to what we can achieve together. And that vision, that possibility, is worth everything we have and everything we are willing to become. We've talked about where we are, where we've been, and the possibilities that lie ahead, but none of that matters if we don't act. Reflection without action is like a star that never rises in the sky. It exists, but it doesn't illuminate. So, this is the moment to step forward, to translate understanding into courage, insight into choice, and intention into reality. I'm standing here, not just sharing my thoughts, but urging us both to engage fully, intentionally, and without hesitation. Because the future of us is not something that happens, it's something we create. And it begins with the actions we take today. I want us to embrace honesty like never before, to speak our truths without fear of judgment, without reservation, and without deflection. This means sharing the thoughts and feelings we've held back, addressing the doubts that have lingered in silence, and acknowledging the ways we may have fallen short, but doing so with the purpose of growth, connection, and understanding. Honesty is not just a moral choice, it is the foundation for every meaningful relationship. It is the spark that lights the path forward, the force that transforms uncertainty into clarity, and the bridge between where we are and where we want to be. But honesty alone is not enough. We must also commit to presence, to showing up not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Presence means listening without interruption, understanding without assumption, and engaging without distraction. It means making the conscious choice to be fully available for one another, to prioritize this connection above the noise, and to give it the time, energy, and focus it deserves. Because a connection that is nurtured in presence grows stronger, becomes more resilient, and lays the groundwork for trust that cannot easily be shaken. Action also requires courage. Courage to face challenges, to confront discomfort, and to step into conversations and decisions that may feel risky or uncertain. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to move forward despite it. And right now, moving forward together requires that courage. It requires recognizing that the things we have held back, the risks we have avoided, and the fears we have ignored are all opportunities waiting for us to engage with intention. When we act with courage, we transform fear into fuel, hesitation into momentum, and uncertainty into possibility. We must also choose commitment. Commitment to the bond we share, to the vision we have for the future, and to the process of growth that will inevitably challenge us. Commitment is the quiet force that carries us through difficult conversations, the glue that keeps us aligned when disagreements arise, and the promise we make to one another that we are not just here for the easy moments, but for the entire journey. Without commitment, honesty and courage falter. With it, even the most complex challenges become opportunities for connection, understanding, and innovation in how we move forward together. And finally, we must act with intention. Every word we speak, every choice we make, every step we take should reflect clarity about who we are, what we value, and the future we want to build. Intention is what turns dreams into reality. It ensures that we are not merely drifting through circumstances, but actively shaping the trajectory of our lives and our relationship. When we act intentionally, we honor the past, embrace the present, and set the stage for a future that aligns with the vision we've dared to imagine. So this is my call, not just to reflect, not just to hope, but to act, to speak, to listen, to be present, to commit, to take risks, and to move with intention. It is a call to step fully into the relationship, into the shared journey, and into the possibilities that await us. Because the truth is, nothing extraordinary ever happens without action. Nothing transformative ever occurs without courage. Nothing lasting is ever built without commitment